List videos are among the most popular types of content on the internet, and if you ask me, one of the most fun to make. So, as I prepare to put one together I'm particularly excited about, I thought why not take you on the journey with me. First lesson from me, personally, is script your intro. Honestly, I think everything else can be unscripted, like from now on I'm going to be unscripted, but the intro is probably the most important part of a video when it comes to grabbing somebody, giving them a strong editorial promise, and a thesis statement on what your video is going to be about. But we'll get into the video editing portion later. For now, this is always the first step of a list video for me. This notebook. A notebook is never far away from me when I'm playing games or watching movies or even just kind of sitting around doing nothing, because when an idea for a list comes in, I want to make sure I get it down. Most of the time, these ideas happen when I'm watching a movie and I see something particular about the movie that I have seen before or seen similar things for. For instance, this list is about 2000s horror that people don't really talk about anymore, but I think we should. I was browsing the Prime Video selections and I saw Fear.com and I was like, I haven't seen Fear.com as a movie or even just mentioned by anybody in years. And so I watched it and I was like, this really was a pretty good movie for its time. It's a little dated in a lot of ways, which I go into in the actual list video. But it got me thinking, what other 2000s, like between 2000 and 2009, do we just really not talk about anymore, but we should? They were like really good movies that kind of are out of the zeitgeist. I ended up writing down 14 of them. That's a weird number for a list though, so I went through and I eliminated 4 of them. 4 that I personally have just seen plenty of. Like for instance, Hatchet. Hatchet came out in 2006. I think it's a great movie, and really I don't hear it talked about a lot, but it has been a running series through, I think, 2021. The 4th movie of the series came out, so it's still relevant enough. Triangle and Slither, I think, aren't talked about a whole lot, but people in the horror sphere do talk about them. Slither is a great horror comedy from 2006, and Triangle is from 2009. It's a real mind-bendy kind of horror. And then finally I wrote down Dead Birds from 2004, and I'll be honest, I only wrote it down because I realized I had one from every year except 2004, so I was like, that's roughly how I plan to list them in the list video. But I talked about Dead Birds to a fairly decent length in my Western horror tier list video. So I thought, I don't really need to rehash it, especially since it's the only one on here that I haven't really talked about too much before. So that's the first step of any list video for me. Jotting down everything, getting enough entries to make it worth being a list. And then the second step is get the footage that I'll be using in the video. For this list video, despite there being 10 entries, it's going to be more of like a what you should watch for the Halloween season that you might not have heard of or you might not have seen in a long time, just kind of a memory refresher, or a guide toward things that you might enjoy and haven't experienced yet. So the entries in the list video are going to be pretty concise, just no spoiler, overarching plot, and what made the movie good. So all I did for this one is grab trailers for each of the movies. We've got Bug, Darkness Falls, Fear.com, Feast, P2, Pandorum, Splinter, Stan Helsing, They, and Triangle. And I just realized that so when I had the 14, I took all 14 and got the trailers for each one, but I forgot that I swapped Triangle out for Dog Soldiers, so I need to go grab that. But essentially, I get my trailers together and then start a project file, get them all in there and optimized. And boom, there we go. This is the video I just recorded, and it contains Dog Soldiers. So that's the video I'll drag into the project file when I get to that entry. So as you can see in my Movavi, not sponsored, it's just what I happen to use, my Movavi project files thing, I've already got everything in there except Dog Soldiers because I just recorded that. So get that in there. And typically the first thing I do is drag them in the order that I'm going to discuss them. Fear.com, I think, is probably one of the top, like, 3 or 4 most interesting ones to talk about. So Fear.com will be first. Don't change the aspect. Now, here's the thing about these old trailers. They look like crap. So, one of the decisions I have to make before making a list video is, am I just going to play a few little clips during the intro for the list video and then go into the entries and talk over them, everything full screen? Or, in the case of these, different aspect ratio and low quality videos, just because, this movie is 22 years old, there really aren't any HD trailers to use unless you've got somebody's like AI upscale concoction for it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be like this. I'm going to be back a little further, and then the videos will play here. It will jump to full screen every once in a while, but, well, we'll get to that. So that's our video timeline for the trailers. Now, since I want to keep this list video to a decent length, considering it's got 10 entries, it will be fully scripted. So I break it into parts. It's intro and then each entry. So Fear.com, save it up. Big fan of cloud storage for this kind of stuff. My OneDrive has so many half-written and just kind of idea projects in there. Alrighty, there we go. Intro, nice snappy 2-paragraph. Fear.com, 3-paragraph. They's got 2. Couple different lengths for different movies depending on what I want to say about them. I've scripted the outro, but it was more just to kind of get it in my brain. I tend to go off script for outros. Alrighty, just recorded all my parts, so we're gonna add an extra video track and drag my face in there. So now's the easiest part, is basically, since it's a plain recording of just me speaking, I've got these handy audio wave signatures here. So I'm going to just go through. Okay, so I'm going to take this little quick clip tool and just cut out all the quiet parts. I always know that I flubbed a line when there's only that much. Like I go blip 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 and then I stop, so I'm gonna go ahead and get that one prepped to be snipped out. I think you get the picture with this portion, so I'm gonna go ahead and skip ahead. Alrighty, bye bye flubs and whatnot. What I'm gonna do now is take this and put it down here, and take all of these and put them up here. Unlink that real quick, get rid of the gaps. There we go. Okay, so this is gonna be a roughly 6-minute and 30-second video. Not too bad for 10 entries, which means I am spoiled for choice when it comes to segments to use from these trailers. Gonna scoot them up a little bit here. Now what I do is I go through and mark where each entry starts in the timeline. All right, boom. So that's the intro. This is the start of Fear.com. Put a little marker there. Okay, got all our entries marked out. So now what I need to do is find approximately 33 seconds of good Fear.com trailer footage. So I try and keep the bits to 3 seconds is pretty safe. Just to get just enough imagery to get a vibe of the movie. There, that'll be, make sure all the clips are connected, delete gaps. Boom. Gonna find a nice bright screen and get a good crop in. There we go. Now, position. I'm gonna shrink that to 1/4, and I'm gonna shrink this to 1/4. And what my plan is to have me on one side, the footage on the other, and then I'm going to put some kind of background, some kind of Halloween-y background there. And then you can kind of see how it plays, so let's check it out. 2 years before James Wan Saw came onto the scene. And so yeah, there you go. Just kind of mix it together like that. Like I said, I'm going to put in a background. You know what I might actually do? The footage low and me low, and then put a movie wallpaper or something up there, kind of indicating what movie I'm talking about, and then some kind of, I don't know, like descriptor. I actually haven't done one in this format before. It'll be interesting to see how I decide to land with it. So adding in my typical list video track, generally just a 3% volume on it, just so it's not completely dead silent, and it'll sound, well, hold on a second. This needs to go up a little too. It'll look and sound something like this. Before James Wan Saw came onto the scene and kicked off the murder porn genre proper, Fear.com had many of the same themes, but with a supernatural twist. So essentially, I'm just going to do the same format for each of the 9 other entries, and job's a good one. So there's a very high-level way to make a list video. First, get your inspiration. Always have a notebook if list videos are your thing. Get your assets, so the trailers, for instance, in this case. Write your script, record your script, put the recording in, and then just kind of pick and choose the various parts of the trailer that either correspond with what you're talking about or just kind of look good and interesting. I'm Smokey Lyle, this is Horror and Cats. This has been kind of a look inside the creative aspect of the channel, and yeah, thanks for watching. Hope you found it useful.